Okay, welcome everyone to our information session about our newest New Jersey Council for the Humanities program, Humanities Lab. I am Gigi Naglak. My name is Gigi Naglak. I'm the Director of Programs here at NJCH, and I'm actually joined by a few of my colleagues today, which makes me so happy. I'm going to turn the mic over for a moment to our Executive Director, Karin Berkowitz. Karin.
Thanks so much, Gigi, and welcome everybody. I just wanted to say a quick hello to all of you. For those of you who haven't worked with NJCH in the past, NJCH is a 501c3 nonprofit that works statewide across New Jersey as the state partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities. We love and are so proud of working with our cultural sector here in New Jersey, and Humanities Lab is just our newest program, but we have many more. So I'd encourage you to check out our website, njhumanities.org. This new program we think is a really great opportunity for organizations to build capacity, and Gigi has built it in a really thoughtful way. I think it's going to run brilliantly, as all of her programs do. So we're really excited to be able to tell you a little bit more about it. I will just turn it right back over to her, but just want to take a quick minute to say thank you to everybody for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Karin. We are a small but mighty staff of 6 here at the New Jersey Council for the Humanities. So, if you've met 2 of us, you've really met a significant portion of our staff, but we're also lucky enough to be joined by 2 of the other folks in the programs department. James Kirkland is our program officer. James primarily works on our grants program, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. And also Ali Marchesani. Ali is our programs intern this year, and she works very closely with me on Humanities Lab, among lots of other programs as well. So without further ado, I'm going to get us started talking about this latest programmatic offering we have. Humanities Lab is conceived of and will be executed with the idea of a lab, a place for experimentation. So in that spirit of inquiry, I've set out a series of questions that we are going to answer in this information session. I'm going to go ahead and share a little PowerPoint that I've created just to help us through this session. Does everything look right? Can everybody see what I'm seeing here?
This is Drovers Tavern Museum.
Oh.
Hello.
Sorry. Okay, thank you very much, James, appreciate it. So, the Humanities Lab. The idea behind Humanities Lab is that experimentation is just as foundational to humanities-based work as it is to, for example, science. We need, as professionals and as volunteers, et cetera, who work in the humanities, we need time and space to push our practice, to learn new things and experiment with new ideas. Everyone gets into ruts and loses creativity from time to time. I certainly do. I'm sure all of you have experience with this as well. And especially now, as we're approaching whatever this post-pandemic new normal time is, NJCH in particular wants to really support that spirit of experimentation and growth, finding new ways as we navigate this time together. That's why we chose this idea of a lab. This is also, I should mention that this program is in a way its own lab, very meta, I know. This is our pilot program. This is our first time running this program. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from it, and we hope to keep that spirit of experimentation and learning as part of the whole program. So today, we're gonna chat through some questions. Why a lab? What are the program components? Who is this program for? When are the important dates that you need to remember? And of course, how do I apply? Oops, there we go. You know what? I apologize. I actually went over most of this. So experimentation is foundational to humanities work. We want to learn new things. And then importantly, we also want to meet others who care about the same kind of stuff that we do. This is a way of feeding creativity and creating community, which are sort of foundational ideas to the Humanities Lab program. So coming back to the components of the program, it's a good combination of learning, funding, and community. Those are sort of the three pillars of the program. We'll get into a little bit more detail about each of them. So most importantly, the Humanities Lab is not a grant program. This is a learning program. It involves sessions for everyone who is accepted into the cohorts. We'll have sessions where everybody meets together along with guest speakers and examination of case studies so that we can really take a good deep dive into different types of humanities programs, public humanities programs. There will also be individual meetings with each participating organization, one-on-one, to talk about the development of the project that is the other piece of this program. There'll be regular assignments and exercises to help you through the development of your project and to help with your own learning goals that are, as I said, foundational to this program. And then, of course, we have a final product. At the end of this program, you will have a project plan and budget for a new program. Everyone will have that. And then once you have that final piece, you have the opportunity to apply for, well, it's not even really an application, to receive additional funding. Everyone who participates will receive a $500 participation stipend to your organization. So that's definite. If you're accepted into this program, $500 is coming your way. That is to cover some of the time that will be invested in this program, and it is an investment of time. At the end of the program, any participant organization has the opportunity to submit their created project plan and budget for up to $5,000 in additional funding to pilot that program in the 6 months following the conclusion of our learning sessions. And the final, most excitingly, the final awards will be determined by the participants themselves, by the cohort. This is participatory grant making. The funding is guaranteed if you want it. Really, the only question is the final amount, and that will depend on each person's project plans and needs. If you determine that you don't want to pilot your program at this time, that's fine. You don't have to move forward with that, and you don't have to submit your proposal for that funding. But you also can't ask for that funding later other than through our regular grant program, which would be a competitive process. But you absolutely can do that in future grant rounds if you wish. And then the last component piece of the program is its community. There's a cohort of participants who will be doing this work together. The different organizations that are there, each organization can send up to 3 people to participate in the program. So there's other people who will be there doing the same kind of work you are and creating a community with you. We're bringing in lots of guest speakers who are doing interesting work in public humanities in New Jersey and beyond. So you'll have those folks as contacts to keep talking about what you're doing and drive inspiration from, hopefully to make friends as well, and keep sort of creating your own community and other people that you can talk to as you're developing your programs, both in this program and outside of it. And then once the program has finished and you're developing your own, you're implementing your own projects, your pilot projects, we're going to have monthly meetups that will continue through that process. They're optional, of course, but we want to make sure that there is ongoing community support available to you even after you finish the program. So who should apply? Well, I hope all of you. New Jersey-based organizations who do or want to do public humanities work are the ones who can apply to this program. At this moment, in this pilot program, you do have to be based in an organization. This is not open to individual scholars at this time. But as for what type of organization, really the sky's the limit. You can be a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 nonprofit, but also a local government or local or state government organization, or an unincorporated organization that nonetheless meets together, such as a neighborhood association or similar. If you have any questions about your eligibility for that, we can absolutely talk about it. Also key to this, the organization does have to be based in New Jersey, doing your work in New Jersey. So even if some of your work happens in New Jersey, but you are based in Pennsylvania, I'm sorry to say that you are not eligible for this program. If you are currently an NJCH grantee or participating in another program, such as community history, we would like you to reach out to us in advance to double check that there will be enough space. We will prioritize new program participants, but we do hope having an open project with NJCH does not automatically eliminate you from consideration. We do have some special considerations that we want people to keep in mind if you're considering applying. Small organizations are great for this program. We're thinking budgets less than $500,000 counts as a small organization by our definition. Organizations that prioritize the perspectives of people who are traditionally marginalized from the humanities are another great type of organization that should consider being part of this program. And also organizations that have not received funding from NJCH in the recent past. We're defining recent pretty loosely, but let's say somewhere around the last 5 years or so, should really consider participating in this program. And finally, non-humanities missioned organizations. You don't have to have a humanities mission to be interested in doing humanities work. We work regularly with arts organizations, social service organizations, community and neighborhood groups, science and environmental organizations. So the Humanities Lab can be a great place for you to learn about humanities work, even if you're not familiar with it. And of course, we welcome applications from our regular humanities organizations as well, especially if you're looking to sort of expand or diversify your process. I see there's a question about schools. Can schools apply? Yes, those are considered governmental organizations. Or private schools would be nonprofit organizations. So yes, schools or school affiliated organizations can absolutely apply. I'm going to take a little pause at this moment to see if anyone has any questions. And I'm going to take a sip of water as well while I wait for that. Feel free to unmute yourself or drop a question in the chat. Use the raise hand feature, whatever's convenient for you. Okay. I'm going to keep going, but don't hesitate to jump in with questions as you come to them. Wait a second, I see a couple in the chat. Are collaborations encouraged? Absolutely. This is a great spot to collaborate. That would be wonderful. And as long as at least one organization fits our eligibility guidelines, you are all set. There's also a question about LLCs. In this case, we are looking primarily for nonprofit organizations. We would have for an LLC that was specifically for profit, that would be a problem. There are some LLCs which are not. So it would be a good idea for us to discuss that on a case-by-case basis in advance of application. Thank you for that question, Rupa. And then there was one more question, some examples of the sorts of projects that might be a good fit. Absolutely. I'm actually going to get to this in just a moment, Janice. So I'm going to pause on your question and then come back to it as we keep going through the presentation, but I promise I will get to it and you should remind me if I don't. So an important aspect of this that I want to differentiate and is going to kind of take us into Janice's question about what types of projects should apply is a reminder that Humanities Lab is not a grant program. We do, in fact, have a grant program. You can read all about it at njhumanities.org/grants, in fact. And you can reach out to my lovely colleague, James Kirkland, or to any of us, really, if you have questions about our grant program. But I want to talk a little bit about why there is a difference between Humanities Lab and a grant program, because it's a little light and nuanced, to be perfectly honest. So a couple of things to sort of keep in mind. When you apply for a grant, even in our case, if that's a planning grant, an incubation grant, you have to know what you're doing. For Humanities Lab, you have to not know what you're doing. These really foundational questions are what we're looking to experiment with in the Humanities Lab. Grants, very much DIY. Humanities Lab is a learning program first, and project development and awards second. So that's really different from a grants program. In a grants program, you're going to get your funding and then you're going to do your work on your own or with whatever team you create, not closely affiliated with NJCH. This is true even for incubation grants, as I said. Incubation grants are our planning and development grants, but when you apply for an incubation grant, we ask you to have a defined idea or question that you're investigating and a process established for how you're going to move forward with planning and development of that program. You actually don't have to have any of those things with Humanities Lab. You could kind of think of it almost as a pre-incubation program. Humanities Lab can, in fact, help you define a project idea and think through a process. Humanities Lab is all about the process. You might have ideas for a project at the beginning, but we're going to ask you to hold those ideas lightly. Ideas are great, but this is really about developing your project in this cohort-oriented process. It's also, I should mention also, Humanities Lab is a decent time commitment this summer. We're going to go over the timing a little bit later. But if you are already on your way with a project, if you've already done that development and research work that sort of comes with the Humanities Lab, this is not a good fit. It's really actually kind of a waste of your time. You should apply for a grant to do that work that you've already started. So if you are interested in applying for a grant, if you think that a grant might be a better fit than the Humanities Lab, as I said, go to our website, njhumanities.org/grants. Our current grant cycle is open right now. You have until March 31st to submit an LOI, a letter of intent, which is a form on our website, on our application system, excuse me. And the application itself is due April 18th. So you've got some time if you still want to apply for a grant. And we will also have another round in the fall opening in September. So those are things to come back to with additional questions. I'm also happy to talk one-on-one if you're not really sure where you fit right now. To go into, try to summarize that even perhaps a little bit better, I set up this handy little comparison between grants and Humanities Lab. Grants are DIY, Humanities Lab is entirely facilitated. There's these required meetings that are part of the process. In a grant application, your project is defined. In the Humanities Lab, we ask you not to have a defined project. You're going to define your project through our process. Grant is very much about planning and doing, right? Planning and doing grants. Planning grants and developing projects in an incubation grant, actually implementing, doing those projects in an action grant. But in the Humanities Lab, we're all about learning and developing together. So I hope that helps a little bit to clarify the differences between these two things. Another way of thinking about this is if the Humanities Lab might be right for you if you have an idea for a project, but you actually need time and support to develop it. It's like this grain of an idea that you can't quite figure out. This is a good place to work on that. If you want to experiment, but don't know where you're going, if you know that what you're doing is not what you want to be doing, but you're not quite sure of a direction, this is the place for you, Humanities Lab. If you have too many ideas and you need to sort through them, try to figure some stuff out, we can help you with that in the Humanities Lab. If you're stuck in a rut, need a creativity boost, Humanities Lab. If you're actively seeking a community of peers, I know our work, especially in small organizations, can be very isolating. This is what we seek to create, are other people who are also doing this work and can provide a sounding board for you. And finally, if you really actually don't know very much about public humanities, you want to learn more, and you learn effectively by also doing, Humanities Lab would be a great place for you to do both of those things. Hope that clarifies a little bit more. There is another question in the chat. How will this learning journey be different than the community history learning cohort, for example? So community history, for anyone who's not familiar, is another one of our programs. The Humanities Lab was partially inspired by community history, so this question is not surprising. And there are similarities between the two. They're both about learning and doing. A couple of things that are significantly different. One, Humanities Lab is actually not necessarily about history. So we're defining, you have to be working on history in community history. It's in the title. In the Humanities Lab, your projects may engage with history, they may involve history. They may also involve things like literature, philosophy, cultural studies, gender studies. The sort of broad scope of the humanities is available under Humanities Lab, and we will be talking a lot more about other non-history based humanities practices. So that's really a fundamental difference. Humanities Lab is also a much faster, sort of more concentrated process, excuse me. The community history program takes the better part of a year. And in Community History 2023, which has already started, or which is actually getting started this month, runs all the way from March until October. It's a much longer, more drawn out process. Humanities Lab, the lab portion of it is basically 4 cohort meetings that will take place this summer. And you will be entirely done with all of the work of Humanities Lab between June and September. If you then decide to move forward with your pilot project, that continues beyond it. But really the learning work of the lab is much, much more concentrated than it is in community history. Hope that helps answer your question, Rupa. Thank you for continuing to ask these questions. We're talking a little bit about the timing. I do want to go through the timing on this a little bit for everyone. The application deadline is actually just after our grant application deadline. April 20th is the date that you'll need to submit your application. And notification of awards of acceptance into the program will take place by May 12th. We'll have onboarding meetings with all selected organizations in the last couple of weeks of May 15th to 26th. Those will be scheduled based on your availability. And then our cohort sessions. As I mentioned, there are 4 cohort sessions. The first 3 have defined dates. It will be either June 8th or 10th for the first one, June 29th or 30th, and July 20th or 21st. We'll finalize the date based on the cohort. So if more people are available June 8th than 10th, then we'll make it June 8th, for example. We'll also be choosing a date as a cohort in September. And that final meeting will be about finalizing the awards for the pilot programs and wrapping up the work that we've done, reflecting on the work that we've done. Pilot projects I've mentioned. The pilot project period is 6 months after the award takes place, which is October 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024. And final reports are due after that. All of these dates are on our website right now. So you can review all of these dates and make sure that they work for you prior to applying. How do you apply? Well, the first thing you want to do, make sure you read through all the guidelines. I've gone over everything that's on the web. I think everything that's on the website. There's more detail on the website than there is, but you can go right here to this link. Allie, would you mind putting that link in the chat as well? That would be great. On that webpage is a link to the application. You can also always access our application and administration system at njhumanities.org/portal. If you've applied for a grant or other program, you'll be able to just log in there and you'll see Humanities Lab as one of the apply options. You will have to register your organization if you are a new applicant. When we wrap up here, I'm actually going to show you what this looks like in real time on the website. So hold on one moment for that. The application is quite short and very intentionally so. As I said, you don't have to have, you're not really not supposed to have a lot of project ideas. That's not a consideration for where you're coming into this program. Rather, we want to know why you want to participate in this program. What is it that you think you will gain from this? And we'll make decisions from there. As I said, you'll know by May 12th if you have been accepted into the program, and we get started in June. If you have questions about any of this beyond what we're talking about today, the best person to reach out to talk to is me. You can reach me at gnaglak@njhumanities.org or at that phone number directly. I do want to remind you again that our website is the best place to go for like basic information about all of our programs. It's available 24/7. If you call me at midnight, I probably am not going to answer. But if you go to our website, you can often get the answers you're looking for. Also, if you forgot who to talk to or simply want to talk to anyone else, any other NJCH staff member would be happy to answer questions about any of our programs always, or to put you in touch with the best person to answer. I am going to now unshare my screen so that I can see everything. Yes, I can. Thank you, Ali, for sharing that website for Humanities Lab. And I'm going to just I'm going to do one more quick share to show you what it looks like when you apply or log into our application system. See it? Here we go. Can everybody still see my screen? We're doing okay? Great. This is our website. This is the Humanities Lab program that you can see. Oops, excuse me. Sorry about that. It's always hard when you are sharing your screen because, there we go. When you log into our system, this is our wonderful test user site. You can see if you have any open requests as well as past historical requests, they'll show up here. And if you go up here on this top realm to the apply option, you'll see basically all the things you can apply for here at NJCH. Humanities Lab is currently at the top of the list. Incubation grants and action grants are also available. And I'm just noticing a typo in incubation grants, so we'll have to fix that right afterward. Click on this to apply, and voila, you can get started right away with your application right there. So that's how physically how applying for the program works. So I'm going to try to stop talking. I am thrilled to hear that you're going to share information with some other organizations, Nicole. I really appreciate that. And please don't ever hesitate to share this information with your friends and colleagues. That is wonderful. It's actually the way most of our information about our program gets out into the world. We really do appreciate that. I'm going to, at this time, encourage you, if you have any specific questions, to feel free to take yourself off mute and ask them right now. Since I'm not hearing any questions, I'm just going to assume that the presentation was so thorough that nothing else could possibly be answered. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate it. Well, I'm going to stick here for another moment, but I also want to put my email address in the chat to make sure you have it. It's also easily accessible on our website. If you have questions about this program, I'm happy to speak to you one-on-one about it. It's no problem at all. I'm sure I can speak for both Ali and Karin and probably James and Joseph and Valerie, who aren't here, that any of us would be happy to speak to you about any of our programs at any time. But please don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions. I'm very excited to launch Humanities Lab, to start to have our experiment with our own lab in our own lab this summer, and to spend time learning with everyone and finding some of the most interesting public humanities programs that are happening all around our great state and way beyond. So I think without further ado, I'll wrap this up and send you back to your regularly scheduled workday. I'm going to stick here for a minute. So if you have any final questions, please don't hesitate. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Enjoy.